You're listening to the Living Adventures podcast, a lifestyle podcast hosted by AshleymIelke and Victoriavance. Tune in for a new episode every Thursday to hear our honest conversations about topics like freedom, creativity, spirituality, luxury living, health and wellness, and above all else, building community.
We have real and unfiltered conversations inspired by our search to feel connected to people who give a shit about us, support our dreams, and understand our struggles. Our mission is to provide you with the tools, guidance, and motivation to navigate any moment in your life with the lens of your neurodivergent mind, with a community who gets you. Adventure on. Hello! Welcome to another episode of the Living Adventures podcast. I'm your host, AshleyMielke, here with
Victoriavance.
And we are so pumped because today we are talking all about purpose, myths that the world has told you about your purpose, finding your purpose, living in your purpose, and then we're going to give you our 4-step process to finding and living in your purpose for the rest of your life. It's going to be so good. I'm so pumped.
I'm so excited.
I know. And Victoria and I are here, if you're not watching the video, in our matching It's Not You, It's My Needs shirt, and we accidentally have matching cuffs. So there's that. And I think to kick off, Victoria, what are like some insights you've had over from the weekend? Because the last time we recorded was really a few days ago.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't even remember.
We recorded last Thursday.
I don't have any memory. Oh yeah, I guess we did. Huh.
Anyways, well, what are your insights from the weekend?
This weekend, I had so much fun. I actually went through a lot because fun fact, I stayed at Ashley's and I watched Max for the weekend, and it was negative worldly temperatures. Honestly, it was like negative, I think like 10 in Boston, and then like negative 50 feel like temperature. The wind was so strong. Ashley and I, on Friday when she was still there before she left, we're doing trust falls with the universe against the wind and having so much time, but also almost got frostbite. Yeah. It was so cold. On Saturday, though, I had a really hard time because I was like, oh, you should go do things or whatever. You should work out. The gym's here. You could go do this. You should do this. And but it's like also it was so fucking cold. Like I didn't want to do anything and I just wanted to like stay cozy inside. And I was just really tired, but I was also like frustrated that like I kind of felt like that. And I was like, you know what? Like let's make one goal to do today, which was finish my gym by number. And so it's like, yeah, it was kind of like a small goal, but also I had to stay up pretty late finishing it because it did take a lot longer than I thought it would. And I was nervous that I would wake up feeling like the same way on Sunday, but on Sunday I felt so refreshed because I took that time and actually just listened to myself on Saturday, and I ended up having a blast on Sunday. I had so many ideas flowing. I was just vibing and everything. I went out. It was nicer outside, which was nice. I went out with another friend of ours, and we went and just talked about random stuff, and it was so fun. And then I told him about human design and everything, and I didn't think he would be interested at all. Well, this is a mutual friend between Ashley and I, but he was like, oh my gosh, I understand why this is so helpful for you and Ashley to work better. That's so amazing. I love that for you guys. He's like, this might be helpful for me and everything. It's like I helped him figure it out. And then I was telling him about an issue I was having for taxes, and he was like, oh my God, you don't know how to do that? I'll do that for you. I could do it right now. I was like, no, don't do it right now. Like, we're together. But, he just did it right away on Monday morning and just sent me that. And it was like, nice. I wasn't even asking him to do that. I was like so thankful for that. And it felt just so amazing that like, I just brought it up so casually. I didn't even know he knew how to do that. Honestly, it was just about Excel. And I just don't understand how to use Excel. Because as a designer, we never did that shit. But like, it was so amazing to just get the help and like not even really be asking for it, but just like being able to receive it too.
That's
because
so
like
nice.
I would be like, no, don't worry about it. Like I'll figure it out and everything. But I was like, no, yeah, like I actually need help. And it was so amazing. And so I'm just really happy and proud of myself.
That's great. You know what's funny is I kind of had two similar experiences because the reason Victoria watched Max this weekend is because I went on a ski trip, and I have similar experiences around Sunday. I felt really bad because I was exhausted from skiing, and I was like, oh, I should do something. It's Sunday. I should get ready for the week. But I was like, my body hurt so bad, and I was in a house with 9 other people for a weekend straight, so like my social battery was negative, and I was like, okay, maybe it's okay if I just sit here and be a potato for a little bit, which like you was good because then on Monday I had a lot of good ideas. But my ski trip was so fun because this is my second time skiing ever. I went skiing last year, and this mountain that we went to in Vermont has like kind of the greens, which are like the easy slopes, all the way from the very top of the mountain. They have a path of greens that takes you back down to the bottom. And so after we did one of like the normal slopes, and it was also negative 40 feels like in Vermont, and I went skiing. That was maybe not the best idea, but I had really good gear, so I was warm. Adrian actually couldn't go to the top of the mountain with me because he didn't have good enough gloves and his hands were getting too cold. So I went with Adrian and his coworkers. And I was like, here I go down this mountain for the first time ever going down an entire mountain. I didn't even know what to expect. I didn't even know how it took an hour and 40 minutes. Yeah. I did not realize it was going to take that long. Like, I don't know if I would have done it if I did know. And I literally fell so many times. I ran into a tree. That was the first time that I fell. It was like straight into a tree, and I slid on my knees. And it was so funny because one of the girls who works in Adrian's office, like she's been skiing for 16 years, so she's very good at it. And she, in terms of like the help thing, like she stayed with me the entire time. She was always skiing behind me to make sure I was safe.
That's so nice.
It was so nice. And so like 3 of Adrian's coworkers who were with us, they went ahead because they can ski really fast, so they were already down the mountain, and she stayed with me, and I was going so slow, and she stayed with me this whole time. And the first time when I ran into the tree, she was like, you did that so gracefully, I really thought you meant to do that. And I was like, man, I did not intend to run into a tree. But
That's
then
I
fell,
fun.
It was so fun. And then I fell like 5 more times, and she was so nice. She would pick up my skis, she would ski them to me, she would go find a pole. And so it was just so nice to have someone there to help me. And it was funny because she was like, she told me when we got down to the bottom, she was like, this is your second time skiing, right? She was like, that's crazy. Like, I can't believe how well you ski, how much control you had. And she was like, I was getting really nervous because, you know, when you were falling at the end, I could tell that it was because you were getting really tired, and I was worried that you were going to cry and get really frustrated because I know I would be really frustrated, but you didn't. You just kept going. And it was true. I would keep getting up, and every time I got up and I just like got back in the groove of skiing, I would be like, woo! And like screaming. And like most people probably would not have that attitude. And last year I did cry. Like I got really frustrated. I went down a blue my first time skiing, which is like hard, not easy. And so I cried going down that because I couldn't figure out how to get down. But this time I was like, went in with the attitude like, I'm going to be good at skiing this time. I've got a lesson before. I've done this before. I'm going to do a good job. And I really think skiing is half mindset. Obviously it's skill too and knowing how to do certain things. But you know, it really is mindset. And my legs were so sore, but I was so proud of myself for going down a 3,000 foot mountain, my second time skiing. And I realized, I was like, wow, this is what I was missing. Like, I love hiking because one, you get the incredible view of the top of the mountain, but you prove to yourself that you get to do hard things. And whenever I was going down that mountain skiing, I just kept telling myself, I can do hard things. I can do hard things whenever it got really hard. And it was cool to remind yourself like, oh, I can literally do anything. There's nothing I can't do.
So question on that is, did you ever feel like you couldn't do it? Did you ever have a thought?
There were times, not that I couldn't do it. There was a time where I was kind of, two moments. One moment was where I was really frustrated because it was like the 6th time I had fell, and my legs were so tired, and I was like shaking because they were so sore, and I couldn't get my ski back on my boot, and I was getting really frustrated. I'm like, I can't deal with this. This needs to go back on. This needs to go back on. So there was that moment, but then I like took a deep breath and I like changed the strategy of how I was trying to get the skis on, and it worked. And then in that moment, I was like getting really tired, and I was like going to cry, but I was like, okay, wait, there's only one way down this mountain, Ashley. Like, you have to ski it. Like, that's the only way we get off of the mountain is we ski down. And that's when I was like, you can do hard things. And then the second time where I was like, oh my God, I don't know if I can, was when my legs, it was like one more slope to go, or like two more slopes. And my legs, my calves were so sore. They felt like they were going to give out. Like I was going to fall over. And I was like, don't give out. We have to make it to the bottom. You have no choice. So those were the two moments. But yeah.
So it's because I asked that because it's like, did you ever have a moment like that when we were hiking ever? That
no, I never thought in hiking I won't make it.
And so it's like, you might think that, I know, like, sometimes when you're, because I know you're not as used to, like, training so heavily for sports, and I know you're training for, like, the half marathon right now, and I know you've gone through, like, many times of, like, how is this ever going to happen, and then it happens. And it might not happen that day, but, like, that's the skiing incident, like, it has to happen today. Like, I have to get down the mountain and everything, and it, like, puts you into, like, mentality of, like, look, take a deep breath. Like, you know how to deal with the mental load. And literally in sports, because like I've been at a higher level in sports than you, is you literally will get psychology training on how to work on your mentality. And that, especially when you get to like the Olympic level, is it is enforced. Even any D1 athletes, most schools will provide like 2 times a week psychological training to help you work with the mentality, because at that point they're at such a skill level that the entire thing doesn't have anything to do with their body.
Right, like, you know your body will do it. Yeah, it's like, you know your body will.
Thinking of, most people don't know this, but like Ashley and I were like, you want to hike what the fuck? Why can't I say it? Mount Kilimanjaro.
I want to hike Mount Kilimanjaro so bad.
I do too. And that is going to be a hike that like there will be a mental load.
Yeah, where we're like,
but at the same time, I haven't experienced that in a hike, and I haven't necessarily experienced that in like exercise in so long. I actually kind of forget what that feeling feels like.
Yeah, I feel that feeling a lot as I'm training for the half marathon, because I was like, how am I ever going to run more than 5 minutes straight? And then I did it. And then now I'm like, I was like, how am I ever going to run more than 20 minutes straight? And then last week I accidentally ran for 30 minutes because I forgot to look at the time. And I was like, oh my gosh, like it really is all mindset, because I just, especially with running, I keep reminding myself, like, my body will keep going. And something that keeps me going running long distance is literally telling myself, this is just a thing that my body is doing. Just like walking, it's just a thing that my body is doing, which is why we can hike a mountain and not have a moment where like, are we going to make it to the top? Because it's ingrained so much. Like, this is just something we're doing. We walk every day. This is just something we know how to do. And so, yeah, it's weird that that's like a mentality we've adopted, and that you can apply it to really hard situations. And yeah, I did apply it to skiing, because I had to be like, well, this is something you just have to do. Like, your body will do it. And like, even when my calves were getting really tight and sore and I didn't know if they were gonna like fall over, I was like, no, we have to do this. Like, this is something we have to do right now, and that's the only choice. Wild.
Mm-hmm.
So
and
much
like mindset. You know, sometimes you have to take breaks, and it's important in those moments of like not to compare yourself to all the other skiers who are surpassing you, right?
No.
Because it's like, it doesn't fucking matter. It just matters that you get there to the end. And it didn't matter at all on your time. And like, something when we're hiking is we go hiking together, but it's not like we're timing against anybody or anything. And so it's like, we can take a break. Like, hey, I'm hungry. I want to like eat my snack real quick. And we can take a break, and then we can get back up and everything. And the break is never because like we're physically unable to do it. I mean, actually, we did take a break in that Frankenstein part. But that was also because the people that were with us, they're like, the dogs are dying. And I was like, oh, probably
we should give the
water.
Dogs a break. Well, and you know what's really funny about you saying that is, I think running actually helped me a lot, like prepare mentally for skiing, because last time I didn't really have any other exercise that I was doing besides us cycling. And I told Adrian, he was like, when I was going up to the top of the mountain, he's like, are you going to be okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm just going to tell myself what I tell myself when I go running is, it doesn't matter how fast I finish. My goal is just to finish. Like, I already knew going up that people were going to race down to the bottom, because it was extremely cold on the top of the mountain. It was very windy at the top of the mountain. That's where it was the coldest that day. And I knew they were going to be like going down to get done and over with. But I knew that my personal goal was just to get to the bottom, because it's something I had never done before. And that's kind of a really nice mentality to go in with, because there's nothing I have to compare myself to if I know my goal and my personal goal, which kind of would lead us into purpose and all that stuff.
And also, like, you know, is you're setting a realistic but still challenging goal for you.
Yeah.
Because it's like setting a goal up against them, and like if you set it up with the person that you were going with, like, yeah, she just can beat you. Like, it's just gonna happen. Like, there's literally such percent chance that you could have beat her. Like, it's impossible. But you knew, like, look, my goal, get to the fucking bottom. Doesn't matter the time. It doesn't matter how many trees I fall into, how many times I have to stop, how much pain I am. I'm gonna get to the bottom, as long as, like, I am physically and able and mentally, you know, like, if you had broken your leg, sure, okay, you're not getting to the bottom. Yeah. But you knew, like, that's just all that has to happen. And then when you can set, like, that realistic but also understanding, like, I mean, at the top, you didn't even realize how hard that goal would be.
I did not know how long that was. I had no idea.
Exactly.
I think the overall mileage was, like, 2.5 miles that we went down, which is, like, a lot. It was a long time, man. Especially for how slow I was going, because I was really trying to control my speed because I don't know how to ski very fast and, like, control it yet. Yeah, so I was doing the side, the swerving, but I was going real slow. But that was the speed I was comfortable at and that I could control. But yeah, good times.
Yeah. Well, that's great. I'm so proud of you.
Thanks.
I'm happy you had that experience.
Me too.
I miss skiing.
I know. I want to. Well, me and Adrian might want to go again before the season's over. If you want to go skiing this season.
I don't know.
Yeah, you don't have to. Anyways, yeah. So yeah, we love physical challenges. They make me feel really good about myself. Now, let's segue into. Well, actually, let's talk about myths to find your purpose, because Victoria, tell us about what kind of sparked this idea, the TikTok that led us here.
I've been seeing, because I'm like, obviously I turned 25 this week that we're filming this. I've been seeing a lot of videos on people who are also like between like 24 to 26, or especially the 24 to 25 of like, okay, my brain's developing, like, but I'm at this point in my life where people are saying, okay, like, I guess I have to choose between staying close to my family, doing my passion, being happy, money, and there's like one other option. And it's like, what do I choose? Like, can you elders like talk to us about this? Like, in your 30s, and like, I have no idea what I'm doing with my life. Like, I don't even know. And it's like, okay, everybody, chill out. I promise you, like, it literally is not that serious. And I know it feels so serious, but it's really not.
It's
and that's
not
the great. If I was to do one of those videos, maybe I should do this of like 25 things I learned before like 25 or 20. I don't know. It's really not that serious. I promise you all. Like, pinky swear, cross my heart, hope to die. It doesn't matter that much. But also, second is like, people are freaking out about this when we really don't need to be, because one, finding your purpose is a lifelong journey. It's not just about getting to an end destination like we're sold. And two, it takes a lot, but it also doesn't. And it's just kind of a cycle that we go through. And I think like with ADHD in mind, I think this can actually be really helpful for us, because we don't need to focus on one. And so when we can get rid of the mindset of like, oh, there's just an end destination, you find your purpose, we are actually be able to be more adaptable to this way, because it's not necessarily one purpose, but like you can have a core mission that shows up in different ways, but also it can evolve as you evolve.
Yes.
And so we don't have to chase one specific thing, but a lot of this stuff and like purpose seems so big and hard to find, and like, what is it? And it needs to be this grand mission statement and everything.
Or like a dream career. Like, you're going to have one dream career you're going to have for the rest of your life. And it's not one thing forever. And if we think about maybe when it was one thing forever, maybe 50 years ago, when people got one corporate job and they stayed in it for 50 years and that's all they did for their life, maybe they could call that their purpose, but did it even make them happy? And I think another myth about purpose is people think it has to be career. Some people's purpose might have nothing to do with how they make money. Someone's purpose could quite literally be to be a mother, and that could be the thing that fulfills them in a chapter of their life until they go find the next thing to fulfill them. A chapter of your life, your purpose might to be the best aunt ever, the best sister ever, the best whatever ever you want to be, but it doesn't always have to be so career focused. And I think a lot of times when people are like, I have no idea what I'm doing with my life, they always mean their career. And it's like, who cares? You know, and we're going to talk about the cycle that you go through, but it is not one thing forever. And I love that you said it can be a core mission that shows up in a lot of different ways in your life. And that might be a core mission you've known forever. And if you don't have a core mission, that's fine too. I know for me, I'm like, all I know is I want to inspire the masses. For my whole life, I've been like, I'm going to inspire the masses. And what does that mean? That can mean so many different things in so many different ways. And that's okay because it gives me freedom to change my purpose and my passions. And I think the other hard thing is when you find your purpose or you think you found it and you don't realize you're going to find it over and over again throughout your life is the time you find your purpose and then realize it's not your purpose, your world is going to fall apart if you don't already know that there's more than one purpose. Because that's what happened to me and Victoria, I think. We're like, we found it. We found the thing we're meant to do. And then all of a sudden we're like, wait, what if this isn't it? And then we're like, wait, did we get it wrong? And it's not that we got it wrong. It's just that served a chapter of our life. And we'll get into that when we talk about the process.
Yeah, and for me personally, like, looking back at it, because I was, like, digging deep into this, like, this weekend and, like, yesterday, and I defined it too specific, like my old ones, and I then rewrote it yesterday, and we were kind of doing this a little bit together, but I ended up writing it insanely broadly, and it helped a lot because it also... One, it leaves room for things to not be as, like, jagged as they move, but also encapsulate a lot more and, like, invite more change and not invite it to be, like, limiting.
Yeah, so strict. And the other thing is Victoria, like, did some research on what other people are telling people to do to find their purpose, and it is very specific. Very specific ways to find your purpose, things you have to do. And we've realized in finding our own purpose multiple times throughout our lives that it's not a strict 12-step process. It is a broad process where you have freedom to play and learn and grow inside of the process that we're going to teach you today. And that gives you the freedom to find your purpose, redefine your purpose, all of those things.
Yes.
All right.
And so
let's get into it.
We have our 4-step formula. But at first, we want to talk about a lot of the myths and the stuff that we find of what people are saying before we get into that, so we can give you some good knowledge about anything and everything that we want to. But give you some good knowledge on, like, kind of, like, what is out there, if, like, you've looked into it, and why we might, like, disagree with some of it. And though it can be helpful, it's not necessarily, like, a direct correlation to finding your purpose. Let's get into it. Okay. Here's Tony Robbins' list of... Well, here's those 2 things that are keeping you from finding your purpose, which is certainty and limiting beliefs. Now, how to find his purpose, his 12-step process is search inward on how you can be happy. 2, put purpose before goals. 3, focus on what you have. 4, take ownership of your life. 5, think about what brings you joy. 6, develop your own vision statement. 7, discover true needs. 8, write out your story. 9, take time for yourself. 10, embrace acceptance. 11, find your community. 12, be flexible.
And for me, I'm like, 1, those are so generic. And also, if you were someone who had no idea what you wanted to do with your life, I don't think many of those things would help you.
No. And honestly, my first thought is, why is community so fucking low?
Yeah.
Why is that number 11? And on the other list, it was number 9, was finding community.
And, like, some of those things I get, go inward, sure. Find what brings you joy, sure. Be flexible, sure. But there's to look at it as a list. Like, he just gave you things to do. He gave you a to-do list right there. Will that help you find your purpose? Absolutely not. And if anyone is to, like, Ashley, how are you saying this? How do you know? Literally, my first round of ever being a coach was a life purpose coach, guys. Like, that was the very first things I was helping people solve. So I was working with many, many clients to help them figure out what their purpose was, and that was not it. It's not a to-do list. It's more about living than it is about checking off boxes, which is something we consistently say on this podcast. And that's why that Tony Robbins version is not going to work. It's not a to-do list. You can't to-do list your way to purpose.
And it's like, there's things in here that, like, yeah, it might help. Like, 100%. Like, there's things on here, like, yeah, I do that. And, like, it definitely does help. But it's not necessarily, like, a core thing that gets you there. And it's something that might happen and evolve as you work on that. But it's not something you have to be like, oh, I need to start doing this, of, like, putting my purpose before my goals and doing
it's like,
this,
wait, I don't know my
everything.
Purpose. It's like, wait, I don't know my purpose. How can I put it before my goals? Like, that's step number 2. You don't even know.
Step 2 is put your purpose before your goals.
How did you find it?
How can you fucking do that? And what if your goal is to find your purpose?
Like, sir,
it doesn't make sense.
Is wrong, right? And so when Victoria and I were talking, we realized that finding your purpose is like more of a circle than a list that you check off, because it happens in a cycle, and it's something you do over and over again throughout your whole life until you're like, oh, this is it for now. And then you realize, okay, I'm done with that chapter of my life. What's my new purpose? Which is really what we want to talk about today.
And, like, I think a lot of this kind of goes together. So it's like, okay, step 4, take ownership of your own life, is literally the same thing as 1, search inward, how can I be happy? That is the same step at the same time, because when you're taking ownership of your life, you're like, take inventory of what is not making me happy and what's making me happy. How can I fix the stuff that's not making me happy? And I'm looking inward. That is the same exact fucking step.
Yeah. And I would argue that many of the steps that Tony Robbins has given could fall under our 4-step process, but the way we're going to deliver it to you is going to make it make so much more sense than a random checklist. But we're going to recommend our formula. So our 4-step process for finding your purpose and then living in your purpose actually came from my life purpose coaching program called Find Your Freedom. It was the very first coaching program I ever launched. I helped people who were stuck in careers or jobs or businesses that they didn't like really go through the process of figuring out what life is about, what they like, and all of those things. And many of them now live their dream lives with their dream jobs, and they've found their purpose for the time being. So should we go step by step, or should we do a broad overview?
Well, you know your masterclass of discover and monetize
your expertise? Yeah.
Yeah. Isn't that like kind of not the same thing, but it's like some of that stuff is like kind of like finding your purpose.
Yeah.
But like finding your purpose money-wise, did you take it like inspiration from that?
Yeah.
I don't know. I just thought about that.
Yeah. So I had a Discover and Monetize Your Expertise workshop, and I did take some parts from my very first coaching program to help people discover and monetize their expertise. The only difference was we went a little bit deeper in some of those things, but like, for example, I have a Find Your Freedom ebook which goes over the process, and in the ebook it has some of the worksheets that we used in that workshop. So this is something I very much believe in and has worked to help people not only figure out like what's their purpose, but also how do they make money from their purpose, from their skills.
Yeah. No, because it's like I was thinking back when I was doing this stuff yesterday, and then you just talking about it just like reminded my brain about it again. Because I was like, oh, some of the stuff that in that workshop, it was kind of like the Ikigai strategy. If you don't know what the Ikigai strategy is, everybody, it's the Japanese way of finding your purpose in life. And so basically it's like the 4 ideas. And I like this. I did this in college, which is what you love, what the world needs, paid for, and then what you're good at. And so it's kind of taking like some of those strategies, and then like in the middle is your Ikigai. In the middle is like your Ikigai, and then it's like they kind of Venn diagram it out. Look it up if you don't know. It's called Ikigai, Ikigai. Anyways, continue.
Yeah, anyways, so I'll give you a broad overview of the 4 steps to find your purpose, and then we'll dive in and give you examples of how we've used this process to help ourselves find our purpose. So the 4 steps to finding your purpose is assess, expand, release, and act. And so within all of those things, we're kind of assessing our reality, see what we like, see what we don't like. We're expanding to see what's possible. We're releasing stuff that's holding us back from living in more alignment and accessing and tapping into our purpose. And then we're taking action to get us closer. And the reason why this is a process and a cycle that we go through is because every time we go through this cycle, we get one step closer to figuring out what our purpose is in this moment. And so if I could give an example, I think about whenever I was in my 9-to-5 job, and I was that 25-year-old who was like, I have no idea what I'm doing with my life. I hate my corporate job. I was 25, freaking out about my purpose, and I knew it wasn't to climb a corporate ladder. And that was the first step, was assessing and realizing, oh, I don't like this about my job. I don't like that I have to sit in a desk. I have to work 9 to 5. I have all these rules, assessing. But then to expand, it wasn't so much so that I already knew what jobs were available to me or what I was good at. I had to start realizing like, oh, like when I go cycling, I'm really inspired by these instructors who are motivating people. I wish I could motivate people that way. Or I got on a call with a life coach for 60 minutes and she told me I wanted to be an entrepreneur. And I was like, oh my gosh, she made me feel so confident in myself. Maybe I should be a life coach. So I started to basically follow my intuition and go to places and try things. And that showed me things that I might be good at. The next thing, like if we think about the process is release, is I had to release anything that stopped me from taking action on those things. So I really wanted to become a cycle instructor because I saw how they motivated people. I knew I liked motivating people, but I had to release any idea that I wouldn't be good at it, that I wasn't fit enough or strong enough or the ideal body type for it. I had to let all of that go and then take action, which was auditioning and trying to become one. Or even becoming a life coach, I had to release all the stories that my parents were telling me about. Starting a business is bad, it's scary, you need health insurance. My sister even told me, you're not going to like being a life coach, you shouldn't do that. I had to release all those stories and then take action, and that action was signing up for a coach training program. And that was one big cycle that I went through to get to, okay, new chapter in your life, maybe your purpose is being a life coach.
Yeah. And it happens like in cycles. And I want to know this from you, is so when you felt like that and you were like, okay, life coaching and everything, and you first started that, did you finally feel like, oh my God, this is it. This is the piece that I was always missing in your life? Or you felt that, but then at the same time, maybe you had this like 5%, maybe 10% thought of like, yeah, but it's still not there.
I think in the moment when I first started, so it's funny because even with when I started doing cycle instructing and I was teaching at Cycle Bar, I was like, oh, this is so much closer, but I knew it wasn't it. But I was so excited to get to motivate people. Then with life coaching, I was kind of like, I think this is it. But I knew I was starting off with life purpose coaching and I really wanted to do business coaching. And so I knew that wasn't 100% it. But then when I started business coaching, I was like, oh, this is it. Because it felt like when I started business coaching that it was every skill I've learned up until this point coming together. It was my degrees, it was my intern experience, it was my job experience, it was my motivation experience, everything that I've ever done, every job I've ever had, every experience lining up into this purpose to serve people. And I was like, oh, yeah, this makes sense. And so it would have been cool if there was a 5% part of me that was like, no, this isn't it yet. But it really did feel that way. And I think it's because for that chapter, for those 2 years of my life, that really was what I was supposed to do. Whether that's because those were the people I was supposed to help, or maybe there was just lessons I was supposed to learn in having a coaching business. I think that really was it. And so I think the other thing to think about purpose is, yes, business coaching felt like my purpose, but maybe my actual purpose in that time was just to learn. And it wasn't even about being a business coach was my purpose, but it was my purpose to learn in those 2 years, because now look at where I am. It feels like, again, everything in my life has led up to this moment. And it's going to keep feeling that way because you're going to keep stacking on knowledge and experiences that lead up to a moment. But what about you? Did you feel like 5% was off?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the first time in my life that it doesn't feel off. That's why I said that. Because, so when I kind of went into it, I was like getting really pissed off, trying to find a new job in design and everything. And then Ashley was like, you should just say fuck it. And I was just like, honestly, I'm with you there. Actually, no, you said some other things. But then you said, just say fuck it. Because you told me to be a design consultant, and I was like, I would rather just no.
I was working with what I knew, man.
And so going into it, and then I was like, ADHD coaching, like, you know, like that really feels right. Like I've had it my whole life. I mean, like a lot of people have it your whole life, but I was diagnosed like most of my life. I know people didn't have that opportunity. I'd, you know, worked through so much of the stuff. I knew a lot of stuff. I'm really knowledgeable on it and everything. You know, it's great timing. And like with the explosion and everything, I was like, it makes sense. And at the same time also because like when I was in design, the reason why I liked design is because I liked doing something new and building new strategies and everything. Because that's what like design is just like figuring it out, like getting a problem and just solving a problem. Like I always told like as a designer, I called myself like a MacGyver. Like, I will make a situation happen with whatever I have and the resources it is. And so, like, using that approach, like with ADHD coaching, like, it's really good, and it works really well for like most of the clients. I mean, honestly, all the clients I've worked with, but it can be really great strategy in ADHD coaching. But at the same time, when it's like I'm writing like who I am and my bio and everything, that was the hardest part for me, because it still felt 5 to 10% off or whatever. Because I was like, I'm getting closer, but I'm not there yet. But at the same time, I was like, am I just being too hard on myself? Am I being negative about myself? Is this my anxiety kicking in? And I had like a real inner battle with myself. And I talked about it with my coach a lot. And she helped me work through it. She was like, you know, I think you need to think that like, we don't need to be 100%, and I don't know if you'll ever be 100%.
Right.
But this is the percent that's getting you closer to where you want. And so that next time, in the next phase of whatever it is, you don't have to be stuck. This is just what I want you to do today.
Yeah.
And maybe tomorrow, and maybe for another month, and then in 2 months, if it's not working, we can change. And like having that talk really helped me, because I think like also with ADHD, it's like, oh, well, if it's not like 100%, like if it's not like a hell yes, it was a hell yes, but I still think like there was this 5% that was just like, I'm getting closer. I'm really proud of you, Victoria. But this also isn't 100% it.
Yeah, and that's why I think it's a 4-step process that we talked about, because you were in that cycle. You assessed that you didn't want to do design. You realized through meeting people and putting yourself out there and us becoming friends that this whole world of coaching existed. You released the idea that you had to be in design. You took action and tried to be a coach, and now we come back to assess. How do you feel about the actions that you've taken? How do you feel about where you are? It's a constant process. And you know, I really did feel like business coaching and like doing consulting was my purpose, and I felt so sure about that. And it really hit me hard 6 months ago when I had to admit to myself, like, oh, wait, now this doesn't feel like it's it. Because I feel like for me, like when I was like in the action phase for a really long time, and I was so excited, and I was taking so much action as a business coach and growing so quickly that I didn't get back to the assess phase to be like, oh, is this still feeling right? And when I did get back to the assess phase, when I was like, okay, how do I feel about this? I was like, this isn't it. This doesn't feel right. And I had to like admit to myself, like, oh, this isn't my dream job. This is a bridge job, which a bridge job is just bridging you and giving you the skills that you need to get to the dream job. But now I'm like, does the dream job even exist? Because even now, so I'm like, I love that we have this podcast and we have the merch and we're creating community in the real world, and I feel so on purpose right now. But I'm like, but I know there's more, and I don't know what the more is right now, and I think that's okay. But if I know in my core, and I've always known this, that I want to inspire the masses, I don't care what that looks like, then I'm always living in my purpose. And that was something that helped me a lot, is because even if I'm a business coach, I'm just a content creator, I'm a motivational speaker, podcast host, I'm doing everything I can to inspire the masses. And I know if I do that and creatively document things, I feel so good about myself.
And I think so it's like something to think on in this 4-step process is take your action, and like, especially when it's big action you need to take, like say like 3 months, it's just action. But then remember, like maybe 3 months, like take a few years off action and turn on access again.
Yeah.
And it's not to say like, obviously sometimes you're going to go 2 years full in action and never take up access again. But like the time that is helpful is like making sure this is a consistent cycle. And so like checking in with yourself once a quarter.
How do I feel?
You can do like, that's a really good system to do, where like every 2 times a year, like even if it's just December and in June, you check in with yourself. Like, how am I doing on this right now? How am I feeling? What's kind of going on? Because that can help you not necessarily catch it early, but just help check in with yourself and start the process and
it's a long
like
process.
Not burn yourself out as much.
Yeah. And it's a long process.
It's a lifelong process. And like, right, I think you also said is like, we don't know if there's a dream job. I don't know. I'm living my dream every single fucking day.
Yeah.
I know it can get better every single day. And I know it can be better in 2 months to 2 years to 20 years. But I have no idea where I will end up. And I'm not even focused on that anymore. I don't care.
I just want to be happy in the now. And well, the one thing I was going to say about why it's so important to assess every, let's say 6 months or whatever you want to define it as, is because this cycle is long, right? You can assess and realize you're not happy where you're at and have no idea what you want to do next. That was me 6 months ago and Victoria 6 months ago. We sat down and we were cycling and we were like, first we were like, how do we make more money in our businesses? What's missing in the online communities? And that's how we kind of derived Living Adventures. But we knew we wanted this Living Adventures thing, but we didn't know that it was going to be retreats and events and all that it's becoming now, because we had to expand and see the different paths and avenues that would be possible, which why it's so important to check in with yourself, because once you check in with yourself, you push the ball down the hill to then see the paths available to you, then decide what path you like, then release the bullshit stories you're telling yourself about why you can't follow them. And I think that's how we get to where we're going, is by that constant check-in and then allowing us to see the paths that are possible. And I love what you said about like the dream life. So true. I live my dream every day, but I think what helped me live my dream is understand, and this is something I used to do with my clients, what does my perfect day look like? Or even how Victoria talked in an earlier episode, what does your perfect week look like? If you could do anything with your time, what would you do? And for me, if I can use my brain creatively, I am so happy. I swear, like last week, all I did was write my blog, my YouTube channel, do the podcast, like I was in my creative flow, and that's for me when I know I'm living in my purpose, because I am a creative being who is here to inspire, and if I know those two things and I live those two things, I feel really good about my days.
Mm-hmm. And like I'm noticing my work schedule is like on Mondays I've been working too much, so this Monday I really cut myself off, and then I went and did something for myself. And, you know, I know I'm going to have a busy weekend ahead. And so I'm like, okay, Friday, like, you're not going to work at all, honestly. And okay, like to plan for that, and not necessarily plan of like do more before that. But it's like, okay, maybe this week I'm going to get one less thing done than ideally. But like, that doesn't mean this week wasn't successful or anything. And really defining success for me as like, what does a successful day feel like? And what does like a dream day feel like? Because yesterday I got a bunch of little things done. I did some creative thinking. I did some great journaling. And then I did some problem solving. And I just felt really good. And I was like, okay, then we can be done. Like, that's it. It doesn't have to be checklist to feel good. It can just be like doing things that kind of had to happen as they happen. And my brain was able to do and everything. And just work as things come.
Yeah. And I think the hard thing is when you think about like, if you have no idea what you want to do with your life and you're not even a place where you're like, maybe it's a checklist, maybe it's not, assessing your life can feel really overwhelming. And so like kind of what I would recommend is like, what do you not like about your life and what do you know you don't want to do? That was like where I had to start with my 9 to 5, because I literally had no idea what I was supposed to do with my life. And I know how overwhelming that can feel, because it's like, here you are at 20 and then here's the rest of your life. But the cold, hard, honest truth is you can feel this way at 50. You can feel this way at 60. My granny just retired from her church at 80-something years old. And now she's also trying to figure out, I literally was like, what are you going to do now that you're retired? She's like, I have to figure out what to do with my time. But she said, I'm not going to learn anything new for the first 3 months because I just want to be and I just want to exist. And so her purpose now that she's retired for her first 3 months is just to do things that she already knows she enjoys doing, like art and walking and hanging out with friends and all of those things, and then maybe she'll try new things, and that's her purpose for the next 3 months, and that gets to be her purpose. But if you're starting from zero, you really just, what do you not like? And I think the other hard thing is you do have to start listening to your intuition, because it'll put you in the right places. The voice in your head that's like, go to that yoga class, or try that painting thing, or watch this YouTube video, or yeah, that person asked that weird question in a Facebook group, I should reply, or ooh, that TikTok talked about something I'm interested in, maybe I should comment. Because the more you put yourself in new experiences, the more you're going to get information and clues as to what you like, and invited to opportunities to show you what you like.
Mm-hmm. And like access, you know, is like taking inventory, and then expanding is like, okay, like Ashley said, is like, okay, she wanted to be inspiration. She wanted to inspire the masses, and then like, you know, cycle bar, seeing cycle instructors and like wanting to do that is like, and maybe we're envious of them at times. Like, oh, I'm so jealous she can do that. That's so cool and everything. Is okay, like, what is that inside of you that you want to do and that's like not being lit up? Like, what is that is not being fun for you, and how can we implement that in your life? So like, look into who you're envious of and people you look up to, and like what qualities of them are you jealous or looking up to in them that you're already going to have inside yourself, but like are not being lit up, and to look and take inventory of that to help you expand. And it's not necessarily that they have to be doing it in the exact same way, but take inspiration from what it is that's annoying you or excites you.
Yeah, that was something that helped me a lot, was who inspires me. And that's how I felt about the cycle instructor. There was one cycle instructor, that's not a word. Cycle instructor. And I was like, she is so cool. I wish I could be like her. And literally I had to listen to a podcast that was like, oh, when you want to be like someone, that means you are like someone, but you're not acting that way. And I was like, boom, click. So I hope this is clicking for someone listening to this today, the way it clicked for me when I heard it. Because the very next time I went to the class, I thought about, why do I want to be like her? And I'm like, she's so vulnerable. She's so motivating. She is 100% herself. She is not like the classical fit bitch instructor. She's like a normal person with a 9-to-5 job. Like, she is showing me that I could do this too, and I didn't believe it. But what if I did believe it? What if I did access that part of myself? What could become possible? And the same thing would start to happen for many areas of my life. I would start to think about, whose life am I inspired by? What are they doing? And what if I could do that too? Like, what if? And that started to open doors for me to be like, well, do I want to be this kind of business owner? Should I own this kind of business? And explore that and those things.
And I think also is, don't make this too big. And so, like, right, these are 4 steps, and this can take months to a year to find out. It can take long, especially if it's your first time thinking about it. But, you know, something while I was at Disney that Jake asked me is like, you know, and something that's common in the coaching industry is like, what is your why behind your why? And like, when I first kind of was coaching this on like helping people, is you normally ask about why 6 times when like, okay, why do you want to do coaching with me? And like, okay, why? To like get to the root issue. But we also think like, you might be thinking, listening to this, okay, it needs to be this like huge equation. So like, I know like Tony Robbins is like, you know, make your personal mission statement and everything. And it needs to be this like 6-sentence thing and everything. And it needs to mean deeply and everything. Look up brand mission statements, because like literally stop taking this so fucking seriously, everybody. It doesn't need to be that deep. Jake asked me why, like, what inspires me to make content, and like, what do I like about it, and what is it? Honestly, it's kind of like a form of art. I really like it.
It's
and
art.
I think it's really enjoyable. And I was actually looking at my human design thing to like kind of look back on that and like get some journal prompts yesterday. And 2 things popped out on me, which is 1, my emotions are where my art comes from. And so that is why I'm an artist. And I was like, fuck you. And then the second thing is, I listened to Marin, I sent you that, of she made like an Aquarius deep dive of like what it is. And like, I mean, I have 6 Aquarius placements, so it's like, let's go, like, tell me what it is. And, you know, looking at things so introspectively. And so you're like the artist of things, you're like the architect of things. And it's like, that's always been how I view things and why people love to come to me, because I look at things in such a large picture, and I can just push myself back from a situation so fast and look at things and look at it very introspectively. And that's kind of like why I really like making content. And I only do it really when I'm in a good mood, and I do it when I'm feeling things. And yeah, honestly, my content sometimes is for me, and that's fine. It doesn't matter. I love it though. And that's the thing about art, is art's for you. It doesn't, and it can be perceived and liked by others, but it doesn't have to be. So it's like that could be, I know you could be like, okay, so what is my thing and everything? It needs to be so deep.
What is my thing?
I just really like doing it, and it's fun.
Okay, I have 3 things to tell you based off of that. Okay. The first thing is, I love that you mentioned, I'm almost going to call this the purpose cycle. It's the purpose cycle. In the purpose cycle, it's, when you first try it out, it's going to be slow. When I think about my first time doing this cycle, when I hated my 9-to-5, I realized I hated my 9-to-5 in like May of 20, maybe 18 or 19 or something. And I didn't even start my coaching business until May 2020. So it took 2 years. 2 years of me trying to figure out what am I supposed to be doing with my life. And it was baby steps and constantly going through this cycle of take action, do something, take action. My very first action was like, okay, let's get into cycling. And I didn't know why I wanted to get into cycling, but I followed that intuition. Okay, maybe I should become a cycle instructor. I signed up, I became one. Okay, maybe I should go into a life coaching program and I should learn how to do that. It was a big, long 2-year process. But if I think about this cycle 6 months ago, I realized like, oh, my business is not it and I need to be doing something different, but I don't know what it is. And I love that you just said my thing, because for months I was like, what is my thing? I don't want to be a business coach anymore. I mean, I don't want to, I'm tired of talking about it in the way that I have been talking about it. There's another way of coaching that I could be doing or inspiring. I don't know what it is. I was obsessed with my thing. I couldn't figure it out. And I would see other people going viral or just so confident. I'm like, oh, why do they know their thing? But I don't know my thing. But it's funny because I did know my thing. I was writing down my thing. I was always writing down, like I remember I went to my journal in this month when I was doing the full moon something. And in August, I wrote, all I want to do is inspire people and creatively document my life. And I was like, but then still after writing that down, I'm like, but what's my thing? And it's like, Ashley, why can't that be your thing? It doesn't have to be so big. Your thing could literally be, you want to creatively document your life. You don't even have to want to inspire people. You could just want to document what you're doing in your life in a creative way, and that could be your thing. But at the time, I couldn't accept that. And so if we think about the process, I assessed that I wasn't happy in my business. I expanded to realize I wanted to creatively document my life, but I wasn't ready to release the idea that that could happen or that was the right way or whatever. And it took me 6 months of fighting with myself to realize that. And you know what's really funny about that is I still struggle with being okay with that being my thing, that I can just creatively document my life and my thoughts are enough. But on Sunday, Victoria, I wrote down in my notes app, I was like, dear universe, use my next viral video to show me the way. And I was like, 20K views minimum. I was like, do this, right? And last night I saw a video that I posted last week and it started at 3,000 views and it immediately went to 10K. And I was like, don't be this video. I'm like, don't fucking do this to me, universe. Not this video, not this video. And I woke up this morning, the video had 24,000 views. And it's a video of me talking about boyfriend air and talking about how Adrian made my office smell like him. And I was mad about it. And now I have to light a candle. And I was like, why this video? Like, what am I supposed to do with this information? I was like so mad. I was like journaling this morning. I was like, great, now I'm gonna have to meditate and figure out what this means. And it's literally not that deep. It's literally telling me it's not that deep. You don't have to be perfect. And literally all you want to do is creatively document your life and your silly little thoughts, even if it's you walking into your office and documenting how your husband made your office stink, is enough. And I was like, the universe really got my ass this week. I mean, like, thank you. But like, it's so funny. It's like, how many times do we need confirmation that we're on the right path? Maybe many times, but that I like use that as a sign as it's really not that deep, and your purpose can quite literally be just to document your life.
Mm-hmm. It's really, like I said at the beginning, everybody, it's not that deep.
It not that deep.
Matter as much as you think it does.
When I saw that video going viral, I was so mad. I was like, can it have been anything else? Something promoting something? And it was like, no, it's not that deep. You can just be yourself online, and that's the direction. And I was like, dang. All right. Okay, I guess I'm going to use that information this week.
Because it doesn't matter that much. And I know we feel like it does because it's so personable and everything. And like, how can they do that and have that video go viral and they have it all figured out? You don't know if they have it all figured out, guys.
Yeah, go look at my video. I don't know
behind that camera. You have literally no idea what anybody is going through besides that camera unless you directly know them and you converse with them every single day. Yeah. And even then, you still might not know.
So true.
It's not that deep. Stop making it so hard.
Right, and your thing could be the thing you already know. You might already know what your thing is. You might already know your purpose. For months, I knew I wanted to just document stuff. And if I think, and something that helped me too, if we think about like the assess phase, what did you like doing as a kid? Because I think about what I liked doing as a kid, I bet a lot of people would tell me that I loved music, I loved singing, I loved theater. And yes, that was true. And I thought that was my purpose at one point because I was so ingrained in musical theater. I almost went to a school to train to be on Broadway. But if I really look back at what I liked doing as a kid, I loved editing and filming and directing and journaling. I edited so many movies for my Spanish class, and they had montages and breakup scenes and fight scenes and like all of these things that I directed and I created and I edited. And look at me now. I'm editing content. I'm editing a podcast. I create stories in the videos that I write. I journal like crazy, and I use those journal prompts, and I sell those journal prompts to people to help them. Like, I could have never put those pieces together, but it is something that I loved doing as a kid. So don't think about what people thought you loved doing as a kid. What were those things that you authentically enjoyed as a kid? Because those are probably where your purpose lies.
And I think something with expanding and like the formula is you have to be expanded not just like by people, but also to look for answers, because it took so many times because you were looking for the answer in a different place.
Yeah. I was always looking.
And you were wanting the answer to be something else.
Right. That's the thing. Yes.
And you're making it deep, and you're making it so hard because you don't want that to be the right answer because you're not willing to accept it yet.
So true. Right. Because and like that's why release is such a big part of the process, because if I want to actually live a life where I can creatively document my life and that's all that matters, and I make money that way, then I have to believe that I can make money that way and I can survive that way, and that gets to be my purpose. And you're so right, is we get caught up and we get frustrated that we're not on the right path because we're not getting the answer that we want. Like, I would love for someone to be like, oh, Ashley, you are meant to be a motivational speaker and actress, and that's your purpose, and here's the sign, and here's the opportunity, and here's how you're going to make it happen. And in reality, all I might ever do for the rest of my life is make silly little videos that make me happy, and that might be good enough. Like, that might be enough, in addition to whatever fun side projects I do that make me fuel my creativity. But you're so right. I was like so mad for the past 6 months because I'm like, what is it? What is it? Why isn't it what I think it's going to be? And the whole time, my internal system is writing down, you just want to make videos and be happy and be creative and inspire people. And I even had like someone tell me a few months ago, within the past 6 months, they were like, Ashley, anything you do will be extremely healing for people. Even if it's streaming on Sims, even if it's a video you make, even if it's in passing, you will heal people in some way by interacting with them. And I knew that because I always wanted to inspire people. But again, I didn't think a silly little video on the internet would be enough. And that's what I have to release to get to the place where I can actually live in my purpose.
I think we have to stop saying silly little video.
I know. I guess you're right. It's a big empowering video, isn't it?
Because, like, why does it have to be a 10-minute to 2-hour video that does it?
Right.
Why
it's not
can't
silly.
It come in 30
I mean, it can
seconds?
be silly. But it can be a big, impactful video in 5 seconds. So true.
You know? It's derogatory. Is that the right? That's not the right word.
Yeah.
But it's demeaning towards you.
Yeah, it's demeaning.
Demeaning.
Because it's kind of like what people say about TikTok, right? They're like, oh, you're going to go make your silly little internet videos? Like, that's not kind. You're so right.
You can leave your ego at the door.
I think
mine's gone.
I think the other thing to do is, like, when you're in the assess phase, is just like that. It's like, how are you talking about what you actually want to be doing? And are you being demeaning towards your dreams?
And, like, if it helps, I'll let you all know what I basically came up with mine, which I kind of talked a little bit about in my solo episode on Tuesday. So if you haven't listened to that, go listen to that. But basically mine is, I just want to help people become an active participant in living their own life and just living a happy life, whatever that means for them. And so I want to help going, because like for so many years, even like the past year, I felt like I was just surviving in life and I was just doing everything and trudging along, and I never felt like I was actively living my life. And that can mean so many different things and lead to so many different things.
So true. It's not that deep. And I think what's cool about, like, even you realizing that that's what you want to do is start actively living your life and not surviving and showing people how that's done, is living is so much more fun, and living is how you find your purpose. It's living in the day-to-day and not thinking about what it becomes. Just like we said at the beginning of the episode, when we were like, we're way more focused on where we're at, what we're doing every day than what can become, because we know we can have more. We know it's going to keep getting better. We know we are going to keep feeling closer and closer to the exact right thing that we've always wanted to be doing, because what we've always wanted to be doing is going to continue to grow. And it's in that living that you get to access that feeling of what it becomes. But when you're surviving, you are stuck, and you're stuck in wondering what things could be instead of realizing what you have now and using what you have now to grow and expand upon.
Exactly. This was a deep episode.
It was a deep episode. I love it. I love it. No, me and Victoria were saying at the beginning of the episode, like, it's crazy that we have all this information and all these tools that we've created in different parts of our life that are coming together and making sense now. And I think that just goes to show you that nothing, like, I don't think you can make a wrong decision in your life. You're going to continuously learn and grow and create things that will support you in the future. Because I mean, I think back to this formula, the purpose cycle that we've talked about today. I just created that in my first month of coaching, and I thought I would never see it again. And here it is to show up and help people find their purpose and do more things. And so what you're doing today might feel really irrelevant, and it might feel like you're not on purpose and you don't know your thing, but the thing you're doing right now might actually become really supportive in the next thing that you discover is your purpose.
And I also want to hit on a point that you said, and I don't think you realize, is there's no wrong decisions.
No wrong decisions.
It doesn't matter that much. You're going to learn from any decision that you make. And if you think you made the wrong one, guess what? You get second chances, baby. It does not fucking matter. It's not that deep. Pick yourself up and you go get whatever the fuck you want. It is not that deep. It doesn't matter if you made that decision and the other decision's now gone, because there's going to be new decisions always coming to you, okay? It doesn't matter. There's always more out there.
There's always more decisions, and there's always more good ideas. You know, you're going to have, yes, decisions will be presented to you, but more good ideas and information are going to be downloaded into your beautiful little brain when you give it the space to come in. That's why we have the assess phase. And maybe part of assessing is sitting with your mind and being quiet and letting information download. That's what I had to do this morning when I was like, great, this video went viral. What do I do with this? And I literally just sat in meditation. I was like, okay, brain, what does this mean? And I just waited until the good ideas came. And sometimes that's all you need to do, especially when you're making a decision. Your brain can give you access to instant information and declutter things way faster. And we talked about in other episodes about how you can use your human design to better understand your intuition and how you get information, but no wrong decisions. You can literally do whatever you want in this life and then decide to do something different the very next week. It's not that deep.
It really isn't, everybody. So, takeaways from this episode.
Okay, takeaways. Biggest takeaway. It's not that deep, baby. It's not that deep.
You can do it at any time.
You can do it anytime, any age. Finding your purpose is a cycle. Follow the purpose cycle. As long as you're constantly living in the purpose cycle, you'll constantly find ways to move yourself forward if you get to the action piece every time. Also, stop thinking you have the wrong answer. That's my takeaway. Stop thinking you're wrong. We already said there's no wrong decisions. So stop doubting yourself when you already know exactly what you want to do. It's like, you know, when someone's like, Ashley, or I guess for me, Ashley, what do you want for dinner? And I'm like, I don't know. But maybe deep down, I know all I really want is sweet green, but I'm overthinking sweet green because I know Adrian doesn't like vegetables. And so now I'm going to have a conversation about that. But I know what I want. Stop saying you don't know what you want when you know exactly what you want out of life. Own that shit.
I felt that so fucking deep. I feel that so deep. I'm like, this is what I want, but I can't have what I want. And blah, blah, blah. And now I have to like subside and do something else. Shut the fuck up.
Shut the fuck up. What do you know what you want? We are all out here saying, I don't know what my thing is. I don't know what I want. Maybe you don't right now, but I bet part of you knows, and you're just saying you can't have it.
It's not deep. You can find it at any time. It's a cycle. It's not an end destination.
It changes.
You are a human and you can evolve consistently. You don't have stages where you can stop. You have to stop. You are the one. Put yourself in the driver's seat. If you take yourself out of the driver's seat, then yeah, you're going to stop evolving. because you're going to just drive on autopilot. That actually was not the greatest. I regret that entirely.
Yeah,
that
we can delete it. I think, like, the way to think about this is, like, someone said to me, I need to live in flow and I need to stop letting my ego stop me. And I think if we think about the purpose cycle, where my ego stops me is when it's time to release. So instead of releasing my ego, I stay stuck in my ego and I know what I don't like about my life. I know what I want because I've expanded, but I refuse to release my ego, and that's where you get stuck. If you do not release the beliefs that are holding you back, the stories that you're telling yourself, the reasons why you can't have something, you'll never get to the piece where you feel confident enough to act. And that is why we have to continuously move in the flow of this cycle, or we will find ourselves stuck in our lives and our dreams and our goals and our experiences until we get to the place where we believe that we have all the tools and that we're good enough to take action on what we want and speak what we want into the world.
Exactly.
What a good episode. You're welcome, everyone. I love this.
This felt so good.
This felt so like, good.
One of the, I don't know why, but every episode just feels better and better.
Yeah. Guys, we had no idea what we were doing when we first started this, but we're glad you've made it to episode 27.
I mean, yeah. I can't believe it's already 27.
Go team. Okay.
I mean, at the end of the month, it's going to be like 30. We should do like a celebration.
Passion fruit margs are waiting for us somewhere. That's all I'm saying.
At the grocery store.
That's
to make.
Could be at the grocery store.
I mean, like, in a warm destination would be cooler. Or Arizona.
I do have a travel book. I don't have a travel plan booked for the end of the month, but I do have astrology that says I'm traveling at the end of the month.
I know. And I'm like, the 20th feels like a time that I need to be somewhere else. And I didn't even care if we have to go do something small at an Airbnb.
Anyways, well, we'll talk about that. So that concludes today's episode on how to find your purpose and live in it using the purpose cycle. Please let us know what your biggest takeaway, breakthrough, new thought was from today's episode, aha moment. Leave it in a review, leave it in a comment on our Instagram, or send it to us in a DMs so we can cheer you on. And make sure you subscribe to the podcast so you can get notified on Tuesdays when our solo episodes come out and Thursdays when our duo episodes come out. Make sure you go to our merch store and buy some merch. If you are struggling to set boundaries, we're both wearing our It's Not You, It's My Needs Say No sweatshirts. So go get those. Those are hot commodity.
And there'll be more coming
and there's
soon,
so many more.
We thought of some great ideas last week.
Oh my gosh, so many good ideas, and probably even more ideas coming after this episode. It's Not That Deep keeps coming to mind because we said it so many times. So go check out the merch store.
Drop the ego.
Drop the ego.
Check the ego at the door.
Check the ego at the door with then like a little cute door, and it's like open. Mm-hmm. Anyways, so go check out that, and please leave us a review. We love hearing from you guys, and we'll see you next week on our very next solo episode. Bye, everyone.
Bye.